Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central, all about things that we can do in SharePoint and Office 365, just hundreds of topics that we've covered over the last couple of years. And I don't think I have any of my guests in here with me today, but what we do is I broadcast this live so that you all can join in my chat and ask questions, and we can have a nice discussion going while I'm presenting whatever the topic is. Today, the topic is information rights management, and specifically with SharePoint. And we'll go a little bit into Azure information rights management, which is a little trickier. And if you're looking at the description of this video that you're watching, it's got a link for you to go to iwmentor.slack.com to join in I've got a little Power Hour channel in there to have a discussion. Everybody come in there and say hello. And if you've never joined the Slack channel before, there's also a link to a form to fill out that will basically send me a message letting me know to invite you. So, because the way Slack works is I have to manually invite everybody. So we've got like 150 people so far in the channel. So you guys jump on in. It's got an app that you can install for Slack, so you can just have it running. You can have it on your phone, whatever, and jump in the conversation. So information rights management, exciting topic, right? All right, so I already put a few links in there. I put some reference links in the general tab in there, and I put a link, of course, to watch this video in there, and a blog post. There's a blog post that I wrote on information rights management. I wrote it a couple of years ago. So some of the screenshots have changed. I went ahead and updated it this week to update the screenshot so it's more accurate as to what it actually looks like in Office 365 in the settings. But what I'm going to go through today is what is information rights management and how can we specifically use it in documents that we use in SharePoint. What does it look like, and how does it help? And then we're also going to, if we have time, go into what Azure information rights management is. And that's the more advanced one, and that's the one that's not that's going to cost you some. So I'll go ahead and first of all, everybody say hello. I want to make sure you're here. And I have my lovely assistant, Charlotte, here today. Say, look at the camera, say hi. So she's helping me monitor the chat in here. So my computer was acting a little wonky right before I got started. So it looks like you guys can hear me from here, but you guys, I want you to confirm in the chat window that you can see and hear me, and just to make sure, since I don't have any of my buddies in here to do like little sound checks with. So, all right, it's crickets chirping. Hello. Oh, there's somebody typing. Andy Honeycutt. Thumbs up. Okay, thank you. All right, information rights management. Now, I had a whole bunch of windows open with a whole bunch of links that I wanted to share with you right before I started this webcast. And then my computer, as soon as I started the Google Hangout, my computer slowed to a crawl, and I had to shut down all these browser sessions I had open to make it so that it functions. So what I'm going to do is basically, we're going to talk about where we can find information rights management and turn it on in your Office 365 tenant, and how you can get it, and what type of tenants that it exists for, and then how you can use it in your SharePoint document libraries. That's the first thing we're going to go over. So let me see. Let me get that service level. I'll go ahead and I'm going to pull up this link, service descriptions, Office 365. Yeah, service description, comparison, pivot table. So that's what I'm going to share with you. Let's see, I got to open up Slack. I had shut down everything Slack on my computer. Charlotte over here is monitoring Slack on my other computer. And I'll go ahead and get this link to be able to share with you guys real quick. So, poor computer. All right, Basically, what I'm sharing with you first is a comparison pivot table that is live information that Microsoft keeps updated all the time, that I'm going to put in the general tab in here. And it is an Excel pivot table, and I'll go ahead and share my screen, that lets you figure out what features exist in what product that you might have and what types of tenants you might have in Office 365. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Where's that? Woohoo. All right. So it looks kind of weird in this resolution that I have here, but this is what you get when you go to this comparison pivot. First of all, you can see in here, it will show you the most recent date that it was updated. It shows right here in cell A4. So it's updated fairly recently. I see that Microsoft usually keeps it updated at least every couple of months. I would definitely not download it and use that copy. Like, always just reference this one that they have online. And basically, as you go through this, you can narrow it down, first of all, by, it's a pivot table, narrow it down by what options you want to look at, like Office 365, SharePoint Online, and you can narrow it down by a plan if you want. Like I have, let's see, maybe if I have Enterprise E1, I want to see what kind of functionality exists in there. So as you narrow it down, this little chart down here at the bottom, of course, my resolution again is really wonky. So this little chart down at the bottom basically gives you a list of every single little feature that you can have in here and whether you get it with that type of tenant. So I have like a client that has, or one of my tenants has E1. So if I go down to Information Rights Management, IRM, it says see footnote. It's so funny because when I was looking at this table, it's like every single one of these columns has just yeses or nos in it, except for the Information Rights Management one. And the interesting thing about it is that there is Information Rights Management that you can use that's not the Azure one, and they don't have that one listed that I can tell, at least not next to it. So that's just the typical place where you would go to be able to tell what you're going to have with your whatever type of tenant that you have. All right, so let's go into Office 365. I'm going to close that. Keep as few. Yeah, plug that in. Sure. There's that big black rectangular thing with the, yeah. All right, I'll go into my tenant. Now I have a test tenant here that I have information rights management turned on in here, but my blog post actually walks you through going through all the steps of turning it on. Like, you have to turn it on at the tenant level first. So let's see, I'll pull that up too. You got it? All right. All right, so admin, oh, it died. Oh, okay, nice. That's why I told you to plug it in a few minutes ago. Remember? Oh, okay. Well, when you get it turned back on, oh, gotta be kidding me. All right. Let's go to that and show you guys what I'm talking about. Information rights management. Okay, so information rights management is basically, it gives you the ability to do like this protection on your files and emails. So of course, in today's demo, it's going to be specific to SharePoint, but information rights management is not something new. It's been around for years and years, and it's when you think about it, like before SharePoint even came out, information rights management existed. It was something that you could buy, an enterprise could buy and install on a server in their enterprise and have it. So basically it controls the way, like sort of what happens to files after they're used or they get emailed around. So for example, you could put information rights management on, like put a rule in Outlook that says any email or I guess especially any attachment Office file that has these words in it or has this specific type of string in it, gets a certain thing done to it. Like it'll have a certain header or a certain watermark. Like if it's going to have patient data in it, it'll have like patient data as a watermark, and it will have a certain level of security on it. And then you can also control what happens to, let me go ahead and switch back to my other scene real quick. You can also control what happens to the file. So you can say, I want this file or this type of file or the files in this library to have this rule. So you can define whether or not people can print the file, whether or not they can copy things out of it, whether they can edit the file, whether they can even do a screenshot of the file. So if you have like a top secret type of document that you want to make sure that that information doesn't leak out, then you could put information rights management on the file, and that way people wouldn't be able to do certain things with it. And then also with emails, you could say, maybe I have like a very private email that I don't want. You can control whether people can forward it. You can control whether people can copy it, or just different, like kind of what can happen to that email if it's got information rights management applied to it. So you can really kind of get restrictive and really kind of take control over those files in your organization, and really be able to manage and know that you feel safe in that they are not going to escape or not have things done with them that you didn't already decide upon. So information rights management in Office 365 is, let's see. Yeah, I posted the link to the Power Pivot over in the little general channel in the Slack. So instead of in the Power Hour where we're having our conversation and it might like end up scrolling way too far away, I went ahead and just posted all those reference links in the general channel. Okay, so let me go back to let's see. So what basically we have to, this is something that we're going to have to turn on in Office 365 Admin. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. There's Charlotte peeking around. Say hello. Okay. So I go into the Admin Center, and they actually moved it to, it's under Services and Admin and Add-ins. And as soon as I got to this screen, I was just like, ooh, what is all this stuff? I don't remember this being here before, and I just wanted to click on everything, but trying to focus. All right, so Microsoft Azure Rights Management is what you see first, and then you click to manage it, and it takes you to another window. And so there's going to be sort of rights management that you can activate right here. And then the more expensive, the one that you'd have to pay for if you had Azure, and that's more advanced, is going to be this additional one down here. So what you want to do is, if you just want to try this out for SharePoint and not have the way more complicated, expensive one, you can just activate your rights management like this. But again, I have an E1 tenant, and it wasn't even available to activate there. But this tenant that I'm looking at right now, I believe, is an E3. So if you notice that you're not able to activate it, could be it's because of your tenant level. All right, so once you activate it, and then in my blog post, I'll walk you through that, then you're going to go to Settings in Office 365. So I'll go back to my admin portal, and I have to go to, did I say Office 365? I'm at SharePoint. I have to go to my SharePoint Admin Center, and then I have to activate information rights management there, and it's under Settings. All right. Has anybody used this? Does anybody use information rights management in their organization? I know it's always been, historically been a very expensive separate product that enterprises had to buy and have running. But of course, lots of companies, especially bigger companies use it. I know Microsoft themselves use it. But that's why I was very excited when I saw this, that it came out in Office 365, because this has always been something huge that I thought would be great to be able to implement, to have control over your files. But information rights management was always so prohibitively prohibitively expensive. So, okay, you haven't used, all right, well, thanks for letting me know. All right, so once you're on your SharePoint Admin Center and on the settings page, then you're going to go down here. And so you're going to choose use the IRM service specified in your configuration. And that's the configuration we just had over here. So, and then if you just changed it, you just have to refresh your IRM settings so that it lets you change it to use. So if you went over here and did this while the screen was pulled up, then you'd have to refresh it. So then you refresh it and then you can click OK. And then once you do that, you're going to have a new little button in your, or a little option in all of your libraries to be able to use information rights management. So for example, I'll go over to my, see, I'll pull up this site, but I'll also just, yes? Oh, it's okay. Thank you. All right, and then let's see. Okay, so I pulled up one site that I've turned it on already, and I've pulled up another one. Well, I'll go ahead and turn that on. Okay, so I'm just going to go to this project subsite and go to a library in here and just show you what it looks like to turn it on first. I'll just go to documents and you go to library and library settings and look at that. See, that is where that will appear. Information rights management right there under permissions and management. Is that pretty cool? All right, you haven't seen anything yet. So this is where you would just turn it on. You just say restrict permissions on this library on download, and you create a policy title, and then you have all these options that you can do. So I'll go ahead and call this restricted. I'll just call it like restricted file. Okay. And Charlotte, don't do that. All right. And then a description. So this is a restricted file. And you'll see, and I'll show you where end users are going to see this. Then I have all these options. This is so cool. All right. Do not allow users to upload documents that don't support IRM. So that would be other files that aren't pretty much Microsoft Office files are mostly going to be the ones that support IRM. I'm not sure off the top of my head what other ones. I don't think PDFs would be supported. So you could say don't allow, and then stop restricting access to the library at. So you can even put a specific date where, okay, you're done. Like nobody can go to this library anymore. Prevent opening documents in the browser for this document library. Well, I'll allow that. And then look at this. So by default, it's not allowing any of these things here, but you'd have to check the boxes to allow it. So allow viewers to print, allow viewers to run script and screen reader to function on downloaded documents. That's like doing a screenshot. Allow viewers to write on a copy of the downloaded document. After download, document access rights will expire after these number of days. So even if people download it to their hard drive, then it still is controlling what happens to that file. So we'll just put 90 days here, and then set group protection and credentials interval. So basically you're going to control the caching policy. So even if somebody has downloaded this file to their hard drive, it's going to make them re-authenticate with Office 365 here every 7 days. So then it will just make them, type in their credentials. And then if you want to allow group protection, basically you can, all the permissions that you're setting here would apply to the whole group as opposed to just the, as opposed to just the individual that downloaded them in the default case. So I'm gonna have to test that to see kind of what difference that makes. So I'm not sure I really understand it. It makes it sound like this rule that you're creating only applies to a certain group. So maybe like the visitors group or something like that, as opposed to the owners group. So And then that way the people who are more admins, they wouldn't have all these restrictions on it. So allow group protection, default group, and I'm going to leave that alone and click OK. Well, I'm just going to click cancel because I have another library that I went ahead and turned this on. So, all right, so this is my document center over here, and this is a like using the document center template. Let's see. Charlotte's negligent in her duties here. Carlos says I enabled it last year, but I think there were some limitations for viewing documents and decrypting on non-Windows machines. Yeah, they actually just made improvements, and I will, let's see, they just posted a blog post about that. So let me see if this computer will let me. I'm going to turn on Slack again and go to this document library in the meantime. And I've got a link to that post, Carlos, that Microsoft just announced some updates to it, especially having to do with like iOS and a couple of things. So I'm going to put that in. Come on, Slack. Oh, yeah, it's not liking my high CPU usage. I'll put that in the chat window too. That just came out last week. And then I have a whole bunch. Let me just copy and paste just a whole bunch of these links so that I can just close Slack. And so I apologize for just the dump of links in here. All right, let me close Slack. That, as I was kind of getting all this together, those were the things that I came across, and I figured I'd share those with you. All righty, so here's the library that where I already turned on information rights management. And right here. Carlos, did you try the Azure one or just the one this one that we're looking at? All right, my computer, good grief. All right, I'll just type a better description because this is going to show for the end users. I'll show you where they see that. Okay. So I'm going to show options, and I'm doing don't allow users to upload documents that don't support IRM. Users must verify their credentials. I'll just skip that one for now. Basically, I'm going to do after download document, access rights will expire after these number of days. And then I'll go ahead and save that change that I made. And then we'll go delve into kind of what that looks like for the end users. Let me close this other one here. Okay, so now I'll go open a file in here and see what that looks like. Oops, that's the old one. Let me see. Let me close that one. There we go. All right. Oh, okay, Christian. Yeah. So he says, I'm working on a library that I only want certain people to edit, but I do want all other users to view only what they have submitted. Ooh, view only what they have submitted. That's a tricky one because your lists actually have a setting in the advanced settings in SharePoint that just say allow users to only see the items they've submitted. But document libraries don't really have that. So I don't know if what you just wrote, I don't know if that requirement is going to be solved by information rights management or maybe just views and permissions. So I'm not sure. This information rights management, it really has more to do with what happens when people open and download the file as opposed to what they see and like permissions that they'll have in a list or library. This has to do with they've already gotten to the file and they've already opened it up, and then you're controlling what happens with it. So I'll go ahead and open a file. Dun, dun, dun. All right, look at that. See? That's the first thing you see in this little yellow box. So end users are going to see this, that it's letting you know basically what the name of the policy is and whatever your description is that you wrote there. So yeah, right, Christian. Maybe a mix of web part views and IRM, definitely. Yeah. All right, and then so I'm going to go ahead, and you notice that it has open in Word, so it doesn't give me the ability to edit it here in the browser. I can double check that that's not the setting that I put on the library. Let me do that real quick because I want to make sure that that this isn't just showing this way because of information rights management. So let's see if you guys know what I'm talking about. All right, so go to the library settings real quick. And just tell me out loud if somebody makes a comment. You don't need to tap me on the shoulder every time. Say hello. All right, y'all say hello to Charlotte. Okay, so we've got advanced settings. So let's go look at the setting having to do with what the file opens in. So default open behavior. So it says use the server default, which is open in the browser. And then, but it doesn't say anything basically about whether or not they can edit it in there. So yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure that information rights management is what did that, made it so that they can't edit the files in the browser. We can double check that too though later. All right, I'll go ahead and proceed and go back to that file. All right, thanks. That meant a lot. And we've got 21 live viewers, Charlotte. All right, I'm going to open it in Word, and then we'll show you what happens. And we'll also have to test this probably as another user just in case, because I am the admin, I'm the global admin, I am the site collection admin, I'm every kind of admin in this tenant. So we want to see like what that experience is going to look like. She's impressed that you spelled her name right. All right. So it's got, again, it's got the little yellow bar at the top, and it's got the description, and we can see more details. Let me go back to change permission. And see, it says restrict permission to this document. All right, so what I'm going to do is try and, so I can edit it. Yeah, I can edit it, but can I edit it and save it? And can I print it? Let's see. High CPU usage detected bug. I'm just going to flip over to sharing my desktop with the Google Hangout since it's acting weird. Since my stupid program is acting weird. All right. Turn that off. Just type switching over to screen share. All right. I'm screen sharing using the Google Hangout now since my computer cannot handle what I was doing with sharing the video. All right. Okay, so you don't need to write that anymore since I'm there now. Okay. So let me stop that thing. And all right. So print, let's see if it lets me print. Okay, the non-Azure one. All right. So I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try, actually that compatibility mode thing drives me nuts. These are all those little just default fake documents that Microsoft puts in their little fake test tenants. So I'm going to file, see if it lets me save it. Okay, it does. All right, let me try printing it. Yeah, it printed it. Okay, so I'm going to log in as a different user and see what that experience looks like as well. That'll be a little tricky because I've got, you know, it has to do with who Word is running as, right? Okay, so let's do my other user in here. Switch account. That might be the quickest way to do it. Let's see. No, probably not. Let's see. All right. I'm going to, I'll really want to test that with a user. I printed out that whole stupid thing, didn't I? That's no fun. Okay, it's done. 7 pages. And it printed. Okay. So the frustrating things that as I've been testing information rights management, the frustrating thing about it is that when it's just being able to tell exactly what the experience is and exactly what it's doing. You know what I mean? So, you know, I set all these settings and the setting, you know, says one thing, but then to be able to test it and actually see that setting in action has been kind of tricky. So I'm going to try one thing. I'm going to try opening it up in private browsing and logging in as a different user. I created a fake user called Billy Bob. Let's see. If I can remember Billy Bob's. Let's see how many passwords it'll let me try. Okay, that's the last one I'm trying. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna, yeah. The problem with demoing and trying to log in as different users is not only does it take a lot of extra time, but then you just end up confusing everybody. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna show you what the Azure rights management was and all the confusion that I went through in setting that up. And then we'll talk about, you know, see if we can test that and actually see what the end user experience looks like with that. It's okay. You don't need to tell me every time somebody joins. All right. Okay, so we're going to head back over to the admin center and we're going to go to Azure AD. Does anybody here have Azure AD? Do y'all use it? Is anybody familiar? Or, you know, for being going to be partners. I mean, that's all there is to it. This is, yeah, everybody did. I'm going to turn that off and close that. Right. I think it's still sharing my screen. Maybe, maybe not. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. My whole computer locked up. Just type computer locked up. 2 hands. Come on. Come. Charlotte. What are we doing, computer? All right, can you all hear me now?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay. All right, Google just decided to shut me down and stop my screen sharing for me. So I went ahead and reshared it. Sorry about that. And like I was saying, I just need to get a better computer, one that can handle all this audio video stuff, because this is ridiculous. All right. I mean, I can't even have any browser windows open, like multiple ones at a time. Okay. Let me close. Why is that running? See, that Google thing is just, doesn't need to be there. I'm afraid if I close the Google window, it'll shut down the Hangout though. Okay. All right. So I'm in Azure and I'm going to go to Azure Active Directory and click on Azure Active Directory. Okay. So here's where it was really confusing when I was reading about, how to use this, just how to find Azure information rights management at all. Was, first of all, there was a big blue box at the top of the screen telling me to try the new interface. So it was covering up this menu at the top. So I had to hide that. And then I found that's where rights management was. So I finally found rights management. And then you got a golf clap? No, thanks. Oh, yeah. All right. So I found that. And then it's got my rights management status as active. And then I go in here and it's got get started with rights management, blah, blah, blah. And then it's got my rights policy templates and it already has some in there. Oh, you don't have my audio? Crap. Can anyone hear me? The Google Hangout says you can hear me. Hey, y'all verify that you can hear and see me. The Google Hangout says you can, but I don't know if I believe it. Oh, okay. Andy can. All right. Thanks, guys. Okay. So here is where it's got some policies in here. So it already had the confidential and the confidential view only ones in here, and those aren't clickable. Those aren't editable. Those were just default. But I went ahead and created these two policies. So when I created the policy, basically it's got 3 different tabs. It's got rights, scope, and configure. So on the rights screen, it's basically got, I give it rights as viewer. Now, after I've published this, yes, I'm in both. It's the Hangout, the Google Hangout broadcasts live to YouTube automatically. All right, so basically it lets you set up rights as to who this applies to, the scope, and configure. So I'll go ahead and do a new one. I have to click this big back button like this to show you what I went through to create one of these templates. So you're going to create the templates, and then you're going to go to a completely different part of Azure to go apply and create these other rules and pick a template. It's really confusing. So I'll go ahead and do a new template. Let's see. I've got to make this small. There we go. Add. Select English, and then another test. Let's see. Test template 3. All right. And then pretty little checkbox. All right. So then it's adding my new template. And now I've got test template 3. And so since it's not published yet, I have all these things that I can go in here and pick. So I'm going to pick the users that this template applies to, configure rights for users. So I can pick from groups, like I can pick an entire Office 365 group. It has to be an email enabled group or you're not going to be able to do that. Or I can go pick users. I have to change it to users and then check this little box. And then I could pick individual users if I wanted to. So I'm going to change it back to groups. So I just pick this whole group and then go to the next button. And then for this group, what am I giving them? So when I hover over each of these, it gives me an idea of what those rights allow them to do, like only view, reply all. That sounds very much like email, right? Okay. And then it just, you hover over each one and it tells you what it is. Or you can pick custom, which is kind of cool because it lets you pick exactly what you want to define that template as instead of picking one of their canned ones. So maybe you just view the content, edit the content, reply. Of course, replying pertains to email, and then whether they can print it, etc. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to choose co-author here, or no, I'll choose reviewer. So it chose the whole a group of us in the Office 365 group, and then I chose reviewer, and then I click OK, and then it takes me to it's adding rights to the template, and then it takes me to the next little screen in here. So it says rights, scope, specify which users and groups will be able to apply this template. So that's different than so it's template visibility. I'll go ahead and just leave the default for that. Let's see. By default, all users and groups in your organization can apply this template. So I'll just leave that alone. And then configure tab is basically where you're picking a language and you're giving it like your name and you're saying whether you want to publish it. And content expiration. So this has to do with the protection of the content. So does this protection, this template, ever expire? So I'll just say 90 days after it starts being protected. All right, and then that's for offline access. How long is that content going to be available when the person is offline with it? So it lets you get very nitty-gritty and specific about all this stuff. So I'll go ahead and choose publish, and I've got to save down here. All right, so it successfully did all these things, and now I can click the back button and I've got my another test template. Okay, so now I was just kind of like, what do I do next? A funding channel for my new computer. Yeah, that's cute. Really. Well, I've got my Surface, but you know, it's not exactly the biggest beast of a computer either. So yeah. Actually, there's got on my YouTube channel, I turned on this thing called fan funding, and supposedly if you wanted to, you could go like donate to it. I've never tried it. I turned it on and then kind of forgot about it. I've never tried it out. So you guys let me know if you try that out, if it works out for you. Okay, so then I'm going to go to my new portal, and it's going to open it in a new window, because this other thing I'm doing, I don't know how to get to it in the other portal because all the instructions I was reading were all over the place. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to go to browse, and then I'm going to type information. Azure Information Protection. So I go to Azure Information Protection, and notice I use this little pin, and I actually pinned it right here to my the little tile. I pinned it to my home page dashboard here. Of course, for some reason, so I clicked on it. All right. So then you've got all these different little levels here. So I've got, let me make sure I didn't click on something extra. Yeah, no, okay. So the title is sensitivity. That's what we're calling our information rights management. And it just describes what the information sensitivity is. And it has all these little default options in here. And one of those links in there that's got like a walkthrough, like an Azure directory, an Azure rights management walkthrough, or like a tutorial. That one actually takes you through steps of doing all this, and actually takes you through the steps of like clicking on one of these and, you know, doing something in it. So like I went to confidential, so I can click on confidential, and then I have all these additional settings that I can define here. And I can define settings having to do with all these. So first of all documents and emails must have a label. So is it going to be applied automatically or by users? Either way, they have to have a label. And then what is the default label? So out of all these different ones up here, which one do you want to be the default? And you can make your own label too. And then users must provide justification when lowering the sensitivity level. So you actually make them type like what's their excuse, what's their reason for lowering it. All right, so let me go back over to my little pane over here. This is awkward. All right. Okay, so this is the one called confidential. Let's see. Yeah, confidential. And God, this scroll bar at the bottom is really annoying. Okay. And is it enabled? Sure. And then what's the label? You can change the label and the color. And then I choose Azure RMS. And then these are those templates. So remember the template that I was just creating? Okay, Carlos said he's checking his, and it does appear that he's using 2 default templates. Oh, good to know, right? So that, yeah, the confidential and the confidential view only are the ones that are already going to be in there, apparently. All right, so it lets you, this is where you pick the template. So like this one called another test, this is the one we just created. This is the one that you're picking to define the application of this rights level. So that's the part that's kind of confusing to me, of basically all the different places you have to go to be able to kind of accomplish your end goal. But then, you know, in your SharePoint library, you have a way of targeting something to an audience, but in here you have a way of targeting things to an audience. And so which one of those is going to apply necessarily? And yeah, so it's I don't think the UI, the experience is really kind of the best. But all right, so this basically I can define whether or not all the documents that have this label of confidential will have to have a watermark. So I called it WonderLaura watermark. So we'll actually put a watermark on the documents. And then I can even define the size and the color of the watermark. And so I'm configuring my conditions. I can automatically apply this label. So it's got the options that we saw on that last screen where it says, you know, that you want to make users pick a label. Well, this is where you can configure conditions so that that label would automatically be applied if it is under these conditions. So for example, you know, if you worked at a healthcare company, I keep looking at the camera, it's not turned on. If you work at a healthcare company, then you would want to worry about patient data, and you would want to put in conditions that have to do with patient data type of occurrences. I know that, yeah, that's a big no-no there, is to be sending Social Security numbers and information about patients across emails, especially outside of the company. So you can go add a condition. And so you can select these built-in ones like credit card, SWIFT code, Social Security numbers, banking account numbers, ABA routing numbers, or you can do a custom one, which is going to be use regex expressions most likely. Yeah, matches a regular expression. So then you would create your own regular expression if you were going to do that. So I'm going to count occurrences with unique values only. You can get very nitty gritty with how many occurrences, like, well, if there's just one Social Security number, that's okay. But if there are 2, then I need to lock that down. So it just lets you get really intricate as to how detailed you get with your conditions for automatically applying that rule. Select how this label is applied, automatically or recommended. I'm going to choose automatic here. And I wrote for testing purposes here, and I want to save. All right, and then after I save that, I need to go back to this last screen. Let me close this other little window. God, this is so annoying. All right, close that one. And then I have to publish this whole thing. And okay, so then you're done, theoretically, right? But then now what, right? So that's when you would, you know, get other end users to log in and to kind of test this and see what it looks like for other people than the admin that are logged in. I'm going to try one more external account. I've got 10 minutes left. Do you all have any questions? This is definitely the more high-end one, much more complex than the one in the first one that we showed where you just basically turn it on. This one gets very detailed. All right, so let's see. I'm going to try and log in as my other. No, Charlotte, any questions? Mm-hmm. Hungry? Well, you didn't eat breakfast, darling. All right, I got in. Yay. Okay, so let me move that over here. Oh, you're bored. Oh, well, can't help you with that. Okay. School starts next week, then you won't be bored. Yeah. Okay, so I'm logged in as a different user here, and I'm going to try and go to that library. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go to the library where I turned on the information protection. I'm going to go to just some other library, and I'm going to see what, you know, if we can tell, like if any of this stuff that we're doing, if it's obvious. All right, so this one does not have information rights management turned on. Let me double check that. No. Oh, I'm not an admin as that user, so I can't double check that. That's fine. All right. All right, so I do have, I can edit the document, edit it in Word. And so what I'm going to try next is going to be email. So I want to try and send an email with a document with a social security number in or something like that. All right. It's going to be over in 8 minutes. Okay. All right, let me just try that. I want to try it with document, with a sending an email. So let me just go into my email as this user. Also, it's not really clear. One of the things I was kind of wondering about is, you know, a lot of the rules that you're creating in Azure Active Directory look like they're applicable to email, but I'm not sure. I mean, you would think that there would be a place I would need to go into the Exchange admin to apply that, but that's not really clear either. So all the documentation that I found of turning on Azure Active Information Rights Management, it's basically just what to do in Azure, but not anything like there's one that addresses what some end user experience would be. You'll notice like the URL has something about end users. So you can go ahead and try that one. All right, so I'm going to send a new email to the admin, test send. All right, and I'm going to put an attachment that I have on my hard drive that's got a social security number in it that I created just, oops. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Test to send an email. And I'm even going to put a social security number in the body of the email. No, I'm not going to do that. All right. Send. Again, before Power Hour in the past couple of days, I've been testing this, but at no point was I ever actually able to see it, the Azure Active Directory part working, except I was able to see, of course, the SharePoint part working where I set up just the simple one in the document library. So as you could tell, nothing popped up in the client here when I was sending that email. But potentially that could be something that, I mean, not a client in the web, potentially that could be something that shows in the client. All right, so yeah, just my test did not necessarily come up very fruitful. Let me go back to that SharePoint site and go to one more thing and go to that other site where I turned it on the library. Somebody's got a note for you in there, Charlotte. All right, documents. And so I'm logged in as this other user. So let's see, I'll create a new file. Just upload a file. Let me try the desktop again. Okay, that's got some fields having to do with more like document management, not having anything to do with information rights management. Yeah. So it's got the information rights policy described there. And it's opening that other file. See, this is not this. This is the other one that I had open. Yeah. Yeah. So just as I suspected, just whenever, so of course the information rights management, I have tested that in the past with, you know, locking down the ability to print and things like that. I'm pretty confident in that fact that that works. Let me go switch back to my screen here. I'm just going to keep talking. So I'm pretty sure, you know, and that the part with just the simple one, the first one that I showed, that works. I've tested that in the past, but that Azure part, I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like, you know, I did all this and I turned it on, I activated it, but there's got to be another step. You know what I mean? So that, you know, a lot of the times that's what I share with you guys in Power Hour is my trials and tribulations. My first intent for Power Hours was just to show you the part with just being able to turn it on in a library. And that's what my blog post is about. But I thought I would, you know, delve into the more advanced functionality with Azure, and it just doesn't seem like it's quite there yet. I know that this concept exists though, and I know that information rights management has been a thing for years and years, but just the way that we manage it and the way that we apply the rules, it's not very obvious. It's going to be something that, yeah. There's something that's missing, even though I told it to turn on and apply to everything in the whole organization. It doesn't look like it's applying though. So if I figure that out, or if I find anyone who knows the answer to that, I will let you know. But the more advanced one, the Azure one, it doesn't seem like, at least nobody that I know is using it. So it's kind of hard to get like a lot of insight as to, like, you know, kind of the trials and tribulations and the ins and outs of using it in the real world. So let's see, I've got 2 minutes left. Maybe I can turn my screen back on. Let's see if it'll let me do that. My whole computer's going to explode. Stop sharing. All right, any last questions? Charlotte, I can't see them. Oh, yeah. Did anybody find anything interesting that you think you're going to go try, or? Charlotte. All right, let's see. I've got Power Hour next week, I believe, is, yes, she's the Power Hour Padawan. You guys just look on wonderlara.com, look at my blog post, and click the resources tab at the top and click Power Hour schedule. And that's where I've got a schedule of all the upcoming topics. And, you know, I feel free to look into information rights management and try out the SharePoint one, especially if you have those higher levels of tenants in Office 365. And, you know, this is something, if you're on-prem, information rights management is something that you could get and implement in your organization and run that server in your organization. So that's possible as well. It's just, you know, more high end. So I will let you guys go, and I will see you next week, and 11 Central on Wednesday. Thanks everybody for coming. Over and out.